All right. So I haven't made a guitar book post in a while. Wanted to get back on the horse. I've been working on the recording studio and kind of want to let the election blow over, and also there's been just a lot of other things going on in my life. So going to get back on the horse, start talking about this. We're going to do two things first. We're going to review some concepts. And the third thing is we're going to jump into the system or method that I've come up with for teaching you to feel the way the virtuosos do. So some review. The first post I did was on my guitar teacher, talking about how I need to teach you all how to feel the way the virtuosos do. The second post was me running all my research and stuff with my guitar teacher past a medical professional and getting his take on it. And basically the gist of everything that I've said was all good. So you have some assurance that everything I'm about to tell you was reviewed by a medical professional and makes some sense. And then the third thing now is to kind of review some stuff. So, or I should say the second thing is to review some concepts. So remember, a muscle contracts like an accordion, and there's a rope tied to it called a tendon that gets pulled when the accordion contracts. And so the accordion example I like because it helps you understand the muscle and tendon relationship. When you're going to talk about the actual bones moving, I like the castle analogy. Think of this here where the muscles are, the biceps, is like the castle with all the gears that pull up the drawbridge. The tendons are like the chains that pull the drawbridge up, so they're attached to the muscle and the bone or the drawbridge. And when you contract the muscles, you or do muscular exertion, that pulls the drawbridge or the forearm up, and it also it allows you to hold it up as well. And so there's kind of two types of muscular exertion. There's muscle exertion that causes movement, and there's muscle exertion that holds things up against gravity. And that's kind of one of the third concepts here, is that in addition to muscular exertion, gravity is also an external force that acts on your muscles and joints. If I just release the muscular exertion, gravity just pushes that arm down. And so in addition to that sort of static muscular exertion, the dynamic muscular exertion of movement, there's also gravity being this external force that acts on it. Now, there's a word that great musicians use a lot, which is called tension. They'll tell you you're being tense. And typically what that means is that you're holding something that you shouldn't be, and so you're muscular exerting. So you can think of muscular exertion and tension as two different words for saying the same thing within the context of this music book, because the virtuosos use it all the time. The second thing they'll use is relaxation, and that's when you release it. Now, there's a couple different ways. One is to set it on something, so like the side of the guitar, so now your arm's not being held up. The other is to let it fall, as we showed earlier. And so this tension and relaxation, or muscular exertion and relaxation, are really key concepts. And they're what the virtuosos are perceiving and feeling. So now that we've kind of gone over some of those concepts, the next thing is the system that I've come up with to teach this. Now, there's the system revolves around the joints, and there's 300 plus joints in the body. There's only about 7 to 10 that actually matter for most instrumental technique. And so what we're going to, well, actually, before I get into that, what we're going to do, the reason that the joints matter is that, one, they're the tools in your toolbox. They're how you move. So if I want to play guitar, if I want to move the hand to get to the bass strings, I can either use this joint here or I can use the elbow joint here. So they're kind of the tools that you have to move and execute technique on the instrument. The other thing that's important to them is their points of reference, because remember what we said earlier, the muscles are always going to be behind the joint and the bone that they're pulling and acting on. And so the other thing that the joints do is they give you a point of reference to learn how to feel. And so I'm going to walk you through one quick example, and that's easy for everyone to see and do themselves and relate to. And so this joint here is called the glenohumeral fossa joint. Since it connects the shoulder and the arm, which are more colloquial anatomical terms, I'm going to go ahead and call it the shoulder to arm joint. It's a ball and socket joint. It fits into the shoulder like this, and because of that it can move in all different directions, whereas the elbow pretty much just go up and down. And so one example for you to experience the method in action is you start by holding this joint up. And keep in mind, this joint's a complicated one because there's all of these different motions, but we're just going to do one motion for now. So we're sitting relaxed. Now you hold it up. And if you hold it up for long enough, you can feel the muscles in the upper shoulder, upper chest, and upper back, mainly up here on top, because you got to think of it's like here pulling up. You can feel the muscles exerting, and that feeling is called proprioception. It's the same feeling that lets you know that your muscles are tired when you weightlift, when you carry your child, when you go for a long hike. Obviously that's feeling in the legs. And so the method is that you first start by holding and then letting it relax and feeling the muscles relax. And then once you've done that, you make the motion smaller. So we were here, now we're going to lift it up to here and feel that and then let it relax. And then we're going to do increasingly smaller and smaller motions until we get to a point where you've learned even like the difference between relaxed and holding. Relaxed and holding. And the idea is that you refine your ability to feel what the virtuosos are feeling. The last point that I want to talk about is gravity. And we're not going to get into the wrist in depth today, but just as an example, when I have the wrist like this, there's no muscular exertion, there's no gravity. But as I move it upwards, gravity is pushing the wrist down, and as a result, it's stretching the muscles of the forearm that operate on the wrist, and it's also stretching some skin. The fingers are actually being stretched out. If you look, if the fingers are relaxed, they're like this, they splay out as I tip it. And that's all being caused by gravity. And so even though you're not doing muscular exertion, you're stretching the muscles in the skin, and that's another aspect of what the virtuosos are feeling that is allowing them to refine their technique. And basically, they're using the joints to move, and then they're refining the movement by feeling the muscular exertion. And so for the next week or two, I'm going to go through each joint and explain how they do it for each one of them. Thanks for your time.